This is Scott.
This is Rebecca.
And we're the CEOs of Hardie Party of Five.
And a half. It's not really a company, it just sounds cool.
And if you're looking for a normal family, well, you've certainly come to the wrong place.
So keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times, and let's see where this roller coaster takes us. Hello, Rebecca Hardie.
Hello, Scott Hardie.
How's it going?
It's going good. We're on
yeah.
video. I had to fix my hair today.
I know, weird, right?
It's so weird. I feel like I should be interacting with the camera.
And I may or may not have pants on.
I'll never tell.
Okay. So here we are.
Here we are. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I've been feeling kind of retro lately.
Okay.
So I've been watching a lot of old movies.
You have been.
I've been on a roll.
I don't really watch black and white movies, but you've been saying I need to watch, what's the one, Charade?
Charade is actually in color, so you can actually...
Oh, I can watch that.
Yeah. But I've been watching like old Humphrey Bogart movies, old Cary Grant movies.
I don't know these people.
Jimmy Stewart movies, John Wayne, like 30s, 40s, 50s, a little bit of 60s.
Yeah.
And I've just been loving it.
Okay.
And it made me think about other things that are retro.
All right.
Like in our culture and stuff. So what are some other things? You have your thumb on the heartbeat of pop culture.
I do.
So what are some other things that you see that are retro these days?
Definitely haircuts are making all the way back circle again around to the shag is making a big come out. It doesn't look the same as like the shag in the 90s with, what's her name? Jennifer Aniston.
I was going to say, as a non-hair person, I need an example of what a shag would be.
Super layered.
Who's a famous person? You got Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston had it in the 80s.
Okay.
I don't really know of anybody wearing it on TV. I don't really know current TV people, honestly, that have it now, because we watch so many things that are recorded. But just super layery, all like kind of thin at the bottom, but
wispy.
Yeah, kind of wispy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's making a huge comeback. The biggest thing that's making a comeback right now, bell bottoms.
Really?
They are coming back
Oh
hot.
my goodness.
I know. We're going to erase that and get you some.
I can't believe that's a thing. What about members only jackets? No?
I don't think so.
I may still have one of those.
You had a members only jacket. I remember you had a Stonewash jacket.
I know, wasn't that hot?
Those have not come back yet.
I may still have that. I had Stonewash jeans too. What about those?
Those kind of always been around, haven't
really?
they?
Okay.
Did they go away? I don't know. Yeah, they're coming back, and then the high-waisted kind of ones with pleats in the front, like that kind of stuff, that's definitely making a huge comeback. Hairstyles and clothes. They say if you wore it once, you're too old to wear it again. That's the rule of thumb in fashion.
What if you've always worn it? Like you're not wearing it again, you've just always worn it.
Then you just look like a fool.
I thought you were just classic. No?
I guess that's that's a nice way of calling someone a fool.
Okay, you're a fashion hairstylist person. What would be considered a classic look, like for a man and a woman?
Okay.
What's a classic look?
A bob. Like a
What's
bob
a bob?
haircut. Almost like a take on a Jackie O. People would say she's classic. Like just that tucked under, just classic, like one length or maybe with a little bit of bang. Like classic tucked under bob.
So what would the guy side be for that?
I mean, I don't know.
Are all guys' haircuts classics?
No, you know what your son's wearing right now, right?
Well, yeah, Jake is sporting the mullet right now.
With a lightning bolt on the side. So
yes,
I don't
for
know.
his school.
Would you call that classic?
I would call that trailer park.
You want to retract your statement about all men's haircuts are classic.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, just your basic, I guess, cut over the ears and just around it, like just.
So
that can be kind of boring, but basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you consider my hair boring?
No, your hair's never boring.
No. Is my hair classic?
Your hair's curly.
Okay.
I don't really know. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know about this.
I have concerns about the mullet. We were talking about Jake's mullet. Yeah. Why is the mullet coming back? Especially in that early 20s age group.
Yeah.
What is happening?
It's
What's wrong with our youth?
It's making a comeback. I don't know. I don't know what to
It's really kind of epidemic, isn't it?
Epidemic.
Like it's a big thing that's happening. Like it's
I
a
don't
big
know
giant
how big
fan.
it is. I know. I can only speak for like Texas, Oklahoma. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a big thing people are doing in New York.
So it's just a Texas, Oklahoma thing.
I think it's kind of a southern-ish yeehaw kind of thing. I don't think people in Washington State are grown once. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't really know.
Okay. A
know.
southern yeehaw thing?
Yeah.
That's going to be one of our hashtags probably for this show. So, okay, we don't know why the mullet's coming back.
No.
Why does anything come back?
I don't know.
Weird, right?
Yeah, everything comes back around.
Yeah, it kind of does. There's nothing new under the sun. So, in thinking about all the retro stuff, I started thinking about old radio shows, like old theater dramas.
Yeah.
And it was the thing that you think about, we kind of huddle around our phones now.
Right.
And our computers. But back then, in the 30s and 40s and 50s, the center point of the living room was the radio.
Mm-hmm. That's so weird.
I know, it's real weird, right? Like right now in our living room, the center point is our
TV.
mounted TV.
Right.
But they would huddle around, the families would huddle around and listen to whatever's on the radio.
Yeah.
And they would there'd be all kinds of things. The theater things were horror, I mean, anything you can think of, any genre.
Yeah.
And like musical shows, news, they would obviously, that's how FDR got so famous with his fireside chats using the radio in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
That's kind of how he connected with the public. And it just got me to thinking about these old radio shows.
Mm-hmm.
And how, if you think about it, they were kind of like their retro podcasts.
Yeah.
Because it was just kind of the entertainment that people had. They couldn't really carry it around yet, like with Walkman. Remember Walkmans?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You could start carrying your music and stuff around with you.
Yeah.
Which obviously this was...
How did people know that they were going to come on at a certain time? Like, how was that in... Did they have newspapers? Is a dumb question. Is that a dumb question?
Well, no, they had newspapers that gave them the... Remember, even in the 70s and 80s, I used to look... Before we had cable, I would look in the back of the newspaper and it would give me the listing of what was on that night.
But that was in the 70s and this is in the 30s to 50s.
Yeah.
So...
I'm sure they had ads and everything, and also you just turned on your radio and the station would let you know what's coming. And you would
also, I guess at the end they would say, tune in next week on Tuesday night at 6 p.m.
I mean, it was unlike now when you don't know, with everything streaming, you don't know when anything really happens.
Yeah.
Because like you said, everything's recorded or you can go access it. It's not really... That's kind of one thing I miss about watching TV is when you have... Like, at least when there's a pro sports game or something, you have to be there at that time. Mm-hmm. You can still record it, but it's fun to have to wait and be there at that time.
Yeah. And you don't want to record it because you'll find out on social media. Like,
you already know who's winning or losing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I miss that, like, anticipation, and if you don't see it at that moment, you're never going to see it.
Yeah.
So that's how I imagine radio being for people. You had to be there.
Yeah.
So,
And so how did they do, like... I mean, how did you know, like, what different genres are going to... Like, okay, so this is kind of like into audiobooks, even though audiobooks have, like, one narrator, and this had, like, a cast of people, and they even, like, piped in the sound, or somebody was playing the organ, or somebody was, like, doing a little...
sound effects guys.
Yeah, on the table.
How'd it go?
I can't do that. Can you do it?
What'd you do?
Like, I'm trying to make a horse sound. Oh, you're so good. That's really good, man.
Oh, thanks.
I
may start a new career.
You missed your call.
If you need a horse sound out there, I'll bring my table. Let's do this.
For hire.
That's right. Another side gig there.
Hashtag
side hustle.
I bet you have other noises you could probably do.
I'll work on it.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's a thing.
If it's a thing.
I'm in.
Yeah. So, you had like a whole cast of people doing these. So how did you know, like, on this channel on the radio was going to be a murder mystery and you probably didn't want to tune in with your children? And on this one was going to be like a comedy, and on this one was going to be like a romance novel. Like,
I didn't really research that part of it, but I would imagine between the newspaper and just knowing, I think you just kind of realized what was going to be on the radio. They would advertise what was going to be on, and you knew at this time Lone Ranger was going to be on, and this time Dragnet was going to be on. And this time, Mercury Theater was going to be on.
Okay, you were telling me some of the names of these old ones that have been around, like that started. The Guiding Light. That's a soap opera.
Yeah.
It started in music
on radio.
theater.
Right.
Music theater, is that what it's called?
Or
Radio theater.
Yeah.
And what are some other ones?
Like Lone Ranger was a radio show. Perry Mason was a radio show.
I love Perry Mason. I didn't know he was a radio show.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Superman was a radio show. Batman. I mean, anything you can think of, started out as a radio show.
Crazy. I did not know that.
And you can really see the golden age was from the 30s to the 50s.
Uh-huh.
So what do you think happened in the 50s that started taking radio out?
TV?
The TV. TV had been around since like the late 30s, but people really couldn't afford them, but they became affordable like in the mid 50s. So that's when you kind of see the radio shows dying out, or a lot of them moving to TV.
Okay.
Like, we'll talk about a couple that like turned into movies, and then another show turned into a TV show.
Okay.
Because that's what the TV replaced the radio in the home.
I didn't realize there was like an evolution of TV shows that came from radio shows.
Well, yeah, and you think about it, it's because nowadays we have a lot of built-in stuff, like all the superhero movies or books made into a movie. It's really like that then. They knew all these people loved the radio shows, so why not just bring them to TV? So it's kind of the same thing. They knew they had an audience, so just bring it on over.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah. Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. So tell me about some of them. What do we have?
Okay, one of the most famous, which actually was just one episode on the Mercury Theater, which was a show that Orson Welles had. And you've probably heard of Orson Welles. He was Citizen Kane and just kind of a entertainment legend. He had a show called the Mercury Theater.
Okay.
And each week it was just different shows. Like it would be a dramatization of a book, it would be a dramatization of a play, and he would do it like that. So on this, what he decided to do was called War of the Worlds.
Okay, that was a movie later.
It was Tom Cruise.
Is that what it's based on?
Well, it's based on a book, like Jules Verne made the book like in the 1800s. And this was one of the first like theater performances of it. But what was cool, what Orson wanted to do when I was researching this, it kind of looked like Orson had never read the book. Because he was talking to his other producers, and they were trying to figure out they were constantly looking for more material to adapt, because they had to have a show every week.
Yeah.
So he's like, they were looking at this book, War of the Worlds, and they read it, and it was kind of cheesy, because it had old sci-fi. They kind of thought it was boring. So they were trying to figure out ideas of how can we kind of make this a little more exciting. So Orson's idea was to make it into like it was a real news, like something was really happening. And it was news reporters reporting on these aliens that were invading Earth. So that kind of changed the whole idea of the story and kind of made it more current. And it also ended up, there's debates of how much it really affected people. Like there were some people that were listening to it that really thought something was happening. Like they were really
interesting.
And there's kind of debates of how widespread that was, because really Mercury Theater up to that time wasn't a really popular radio show. It was just kind of out there, and it didn't have the biggest audience. But there were some people that
could be terrifying. Oh my goodness.
Well, and one of the things they did that made people think it was real is they didn't, like on most radio shows, it was very OCD. It's like at this like 12 minutes in we have a commercial, 12 minutes in we have a sponsor, 12 minutes in we have a musical break. So it was you knew exactly what was going to happen.
Okay.
So the way they did this is they decided it was going to be, they totally changed the formula of what the show was going to be. So when people would think there would be a break and there wasn't a break, they're like, oh, this must be real.
Oh, wow.
And they were switching from one reporter to the other, and you could just, from the way they were doing the effects and everything, it just seemed like it was real.
Yeah.
So there were people that freaked out because they weren't used to hearing it this way. It was a whole new way of listening.
That's so interesting.
So a quote from Orson at the time, he said, "I had conceived the idea of doing a radio broadcast in such a manner that a crisis would actually seem to be happening and would be broadcast in such a way as to appear to be a real event taking place at that time rather than just doing another radio play."
He's a little maniacal.
or genius. I don't know. And like I said, they didn't really know what book, and they found this book. It was H.G. Wells. It's H.G. Wells. I said Jules Verne, but it's H.G. Wells' book, The War of the Worlds from 1898 is what they decided on. And what it's kind of funny is you think of these brilliant shows, like they really knew what they were doing and they took all this time to do it. Well, they put it together in about a week. And they basically, Orson was...
Sounds like our podcast.
I know, right? Orson was rehearsing another show, and he was like, you talk about maniacal, he was kind of like that. Like, he would get really, he was like the genius kind of jerk, like he was really into it. So he was rehearsing this one show, and they were rehearsing for 36 hours straight. Like he didn't let his actors rest. For 36 hours they were rehearsing. So the guy that was writing the show, his name was Koch, was his last name. He was trying to get a hold of Orson and say, okay, I'm having trouble getting the script together. Can you help me? But Orson was totally, you couldn't get to him because he was rehearsing the other show. So they just kept going at it. And basically, they rehearsed it the night before without Orson. He was still in this other show. Orson shows up the afternoon of the taping of the broadcast, because what they would do, they would have the band there, they'd have all the actors there, and most of the time they'd have an audience. They didn't have an audience for this one, but normally they would have an audience like it was like a real show. Yeah. So Orson shows up, they go through one rehearsal, and it was just awful. Like they were worried that this was just going to be terrible. So about mid-afternoon of that day, it's October 30th, 1938. Just hours before airtime, Orson Welles arrives in the studios, CBS studios, for a last-minute rehearsal with the cast and crew. And he totally lost it at the beginning. He's like, he thought it was terrible, and they were having to rework all of this. They say that he routinely, like, berated people, like his collaborators. He called them lazy, ignorant, incompetent, and just a ton of other insults. Nice. But what they say is all that chaos is what made the creativity. Yeah. So they're saying the chaos made the show better. If you're in the middle of that, it's hard to believe that. But it was only in the last minute rehearsals that everybody started taking it seriously, and it started to seem like, okay, this could work. So they aired it, and it became one of the most famous broadcasts ever. Because it was so different than anything else that was on. That's so crazy. So I found a couple of minutes of it. Oh, are we gonna play a clip? Yep, we're gonna do it just like you would have done on radio. We're gonna put up a still of. The still is actually Orson Welles and the whole acting troupe and the band, and you can kind of see what that looked like in the studio. And we'll listen for a few minutes, just like they would have in 1938. PSA: this is not real life. That's right. This is not aliens are not attacking. Aliens are not attacking us. Okay. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmer's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain's conferring with someone. Can't quite see who. Oh, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. Humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. Now the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles, spreading everywhere. Coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California. Professor Indelkoffer, speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We continue now with our piano interlude.
Okay, seriously, that can be terrifying. I could see why people were totally freaking out.
Well, yeah, with the sound effects and stuff they had there, and the way the reporters were freaking out.
If that was happening while I was driving in my car and I heard that on the radio, I'd be literally trying to find like a tunnel to drive into. It'd be so scary.
Somewhere to hide.
Yes.
Yep. I feel like a news reporter. Do I look?
You look very official.
Do I like Will Ferrell?
You do. As I'm over here with my glasses on my forehead, scratching my eyeball, you look official. Rest assured.
You have a cool ninja star necklace.
Thank you.
Though.
It's the weapon I keep close by.
Yeah, you never know when you need it, especially when aliens attack.
I mean, come on.
Okay, so I found another show that's near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
Because I grew up reading these books. Like, I was a nerd, and probably in 3rd grade I started reading these.
Yeah.
And it's Sherlock Holmes.
I like Sherlock Holmes. I didn't read them. I just watched the movies.
I read all these books.
I just watched the movies and only the current movies, so maybe I'm not a big fan.
Because, yes. The current movies are pretty good, but they're very... Robert Downey Jr.
Careful.
What?
They're
very
really
good.
good.
I enjoy them.
Okay.
But it's not the same because they're really played as more action movies,
Okay.
which I enjoy.
And the originals were not?
The originals were more like, it was a mystery, like, thriller kind of thing, and not
Okay.
really... Sherlock wasn't near as physical.
Physical,
Yeah.
okay.
He was, like, a good swordsman and stuff, but he wasn't, like...
Yeah.
He didn't go to Fight Club.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite part of Sherlock's when the little diagrams go above his
yeah,
head
when
about
he's
how
talking
he's about
about
to take someone out, and he's got like a mathematical equation as to how he's gonna
He's going to hit him in the kidney and then the throat.
and then slice the jugular. Yeah, those are my.
So you
that's
like
my
the
favorite
action
parts.
more?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I liked them too. So
I think so.
So Sherlock Holmes started his radio too. My favorite. Who's your favorite Sherlock Holmes?
What? Robert Downey Jr.
Okay.
I didn't even know there was another one.
There's been a few, but my personal favorite is Basil Rathbone.
Okay, this is like 007. I didn't know there were more of them, and I don't even know what you're talking about. Who did you say?
Basil Rathbone.
That sounds like a spice in my spice cabinet.
He was
something I put on pizza.
He was actually a Shakespearean British actor.
Okay.
Like, he's a very serious actor.
Never heard of him.
So he became Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, he looks the most like I envisioned Sherlock Holmes, with the big, claw nose and claw? Yeah. So,
And a pipe.
Yep.
And the hat that has the two bills, one in the front, one in the
Yeah,
back.
what do you call those? Deer hunter hats, I think?
No idea.
So the radio show was from 1939 to 1950.
Okay.
Now, what's a little different about this one is they also were making movies at the same time. So Basil and the other actor Nigel Bruce is his name, played Watson. And to me, this is the quintessential Sherlock and Watson.
Okay, you have a clip of it?
I do, but I was going to go through a few things.
Oh, you're going to tell me a couple more things?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
Oh, I've got more.
Okay, I know. I feel confident you do.
So what was interesting about these is while they were doing the radio shows, they were making movies. So he was kind of doing double duty as far as... And what the radio shows would be normally is it would come into Watson's office, and because the way Conan Doyle wrote the books and the stories was Watson was writing all the stories down and reading people and telling people about them. So it would start out in Watson's office, and he would start telling a story, and then it would kind of turn into the actors taking over.
Okay.
So Basil's kind of fascinating to me. He was a war hero from World War One.
Okay.
So that was
the way back time machine.
Yeah, 1914 to 1917. And he was a talented guy. He was actually a swordsman. So he taught like Errol Flynn and a lot of the early action heroes how to do their sword fighting, like in Robin Hood and all the pirate movies back then.
Yeah.
So he was kind of maybe like a stunt coordinator, showing them how they
That's
should.
so cool.
Because he was a champion in the fencing when he was a soldier, he was a champion at fencing.
Okay.
So he would teach all the actors how to do their swordsmanship.
I can see why he's your favorite.
Yes.
Kind of cool.
He was also in the Robin Hood movie with Errol Flynn, maybe 1941.
Mm-hmm.
Double check me on that. He was the bad guy, like he was the sheriff of Nottingham.
Oh, okay.
But he was also taught Robin Hood had a sword fight during that movie.
Okay.
So, yes, I do have a clip. And this clip is this is also a very intense clip.
Okay.
That you wouldn't think would be, you would think this would be a much more modern show. Because this is Moriarty, who is, if you know a little bit about Sherlock, he is like, he's like Sherlock's nemesis.
Yes.
And it's him and Sherlock sitting down to talk.
Oh.
And they're kind of talking about how they would, like, take each other out. So it's pretty intense, the conversation they get into.
All right, I can't wait to hear it.
So let's take a listen to that.
All right.
Now, Holmes, what will it be? The gas chamber, the cup of hemlock, or just a simple bullet through your brain?
You disappoint me, Professor.
Indeed?
Yes. Somehow I always thought that in the end, you'd prove to be just an ordinary cutthroat.
You know me better, Holmes.
Gas, poison, bullets. I assure you, Professor, were our positions reversed, I should have something more colorful, more imaginative to offer.
I'm satisfied to be the winner. I shall be alive.
Alive, yes. The winner, no. For in the last analysis, I shall have proved the more resourceful man. You didn't trap me here. I came here because I wanted to prevent your getting Hoffner. And all you can do in return is to commit ordinary murder to relieve your sense of frustration.
And what, my good Mr. Holmes, could you have conceived that would have been so much more colorful?
Well, even offhand, I can improve upon your suggestions considerably. But that's only natural, of course.
And what is this brilliant idea of yours?
You know that a man dies if he loses 5 pints of blood? Yes, of course you do. I should have you placed on an operating table, inject a needle into your veins, and slowly draw off your life's blood.
The needle to the last. Eh, Holmes?
Slowly, drop by drop, the blood would be drawn from your body. You would be aware of every exquisite second to the very end. You would be watching yourself die scientifically, noting every reaction, and in full possession of your faculties.
Interesting.
Yes, isn't it? I humbly submit, Professor, that to the very end, I've been more resourceful than yourself.
Okay, that is major creep factor.
I told you that was creepy. They're just comparing how they could kill each other.
Oh my gosh.
My word.
Drain 5 pints of blood off of you?
And you slowly die, and
Yeah.
oh gosh.
That was
Whew.
awful.
So that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Not
Like,
quite as
I
physical as
wouldn't
Robert.
want to
but-
gather around the radio for an evening with my children listening to that. So I hope there's some more genres here that are a little more
Okay.
peppy.
Yes, we've kind of talked about the sci-fi horror, and then you've got
Murder.
Sherlock murder mystery, and now we're going to talk about Jack Benny.
I don't know who that is.
You've never heard of Jack Benny? Oh
I've
my
heard of him,
gosh!
but can I be honest?
Yeah.
I get him confused with Benny Hinn.
Well,
I need clarification.
well, here, let's talk about this a minute. Let's talk about the surname. A surname is your last name.
I know.
So let's think about Benny Hinn. What is Benny Hinn's surname? Hinn.
Hinn.
And what would Jack Benny's surname be?
Benny. But do you see how confusing that is?
Well, I feel like one is a first name and one is their
No,
last
but
name.
they're the same name.
What?
Benny and Benny.
Jack Benny and Benny Hinn.
Yes.
Okay. Oh man.
Right? They're spelled the same, right?
Well, yeah, but
Okay, so the same name.
yeah, they are technically the same name, but they're used in a different way.
Okay.
Okay.
One's a first name and one's a last name, but they're
Right.
the same name.
Right. So this is Jack. I've got a picture of him up right. See the guy on the left up
Yes,
there?
I see him.
Okay, that's Jack Benny. So he doesn't really look like Benny Hinn. And this was also in the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Okay.
So, didn't know you. It's interesting when you mention a subject, you don't know where people are coming from.
I usually bring it somewhere you're not prepared for.
That's right, and I love it. Jack Benny was a comedian and started in the early 30s.
Okay.
And he got his own show quickly. He was on the Ed Sullivan Show, if you also remember Ed Sullivan.
What, this was the radio or this was TV?
This was radio in the early 30s. Ed Sullivan, who is also famous for having his variety TV show where, like, the Beatles first performed in the U.S. on his show.
Yeah.
As a TV show. In the early 30s, Ed Sullivan had a radio show, and Jack Benny guest starred on that. So he was so good within a year that he got his own show.
Okay.
And really, what Jack Benny did was he was like a caricature of himself. Like, all of his people on his show were playing a version of himself. And what I thought of is the show you listen to now on 106.1.
Yeah.
Was it Kid Craddock? Do they still call themselves Kid Craddock?
They do.
Yeah. And to me, that's how their show is. Like, who are the people on that show? You got Big Al.
Yes, Kelly Raspberry. Jenna.
Yeah.
And now there's a new guy. Well, he's not new, but I can't remember his name.
But to me, they're playing themselves. But
Part-time Justin.
Part-time Justin?
That's his name, Part-time Justin.
And also, Alan Evans is on that show a little bit. It's somebody I used to work with, who's now married to Kelly.
Yeah.
But I feel like on their show, it reminded me of their show because I think they kind of play a, like, hyped up version of themselves. Like, they're being themselves, but maybe a little more
exaggerated.
Yeah, than they would be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how Jack Benny's show would be. And they kind of did a show within a show. Like, they would be, the main characters were playing versions of themselves, and they would break the fourth wall. Like, they would start talking to the audience, like, in the middle of something. Like, they would do orchestra bits, they would reenact movies, and kind of like we're going to see a little bit later from us, they would reenact movies and plays and kind of have fun with that within the show.
Okay.
So, one of my favorite people that was on his show, I always try to connect this back to, just like our This Month in History, we try to connect back to what we know.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite people ever was Mel Blanc. Do you remember who Mel Blanc was? He did voices for cartoons.
Bugs Bunny.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy.
And
I was thinking that, but I knew.
And he's no relation to Mel Gibson,
Okay,
even though they have the same first name. But Mel Blanc he first came on Jack Benny's show, on the radio show, and he would do all these different characters. Like, he was a Spanish guy. He was just anything you could think of.
Is that him on the right?
Yeah, he's on the right. When we play the audio, you'll see the picture we're looking at, and Mel's on the right.
Okay.
He was famous for doing cars. Like, it was actually an accident on one of their radio shows. The sound effects guy was supposed to be doing a car sound. Well, whatever they were using for the car sound broke. So Mel's just like, I'll start making a car sound, and he would make this jalopy sound, which I can't really do. And it would sound like an engine.
You need to work on your sounds.
I know, I need to work on that. So he became really famous for that. And he would do it. He ended up doing it in Hanna-Barbera cartoons and all that.
That's so interesting.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And he ended up doing, like, Bugs Bunny. He was actually the voice of Woody Woodpecker originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he first did Woody Woodpecker.
Woodpecker talked?
In his first cartoons he did. He talked,
Oh.
Yeah,
Good job.
That was really weak.
I mean, no.
His little laugh.
I mean, it needs some tweaking, but that was pretty good.
Yeah, we can auto-tune that, right? So what they said in the Radio Daily magazine in 1942 about Mel Blanc was he specialized in over 57 voices and dialects and intricate sound effects. And by 1946, he was appearing on over 15 programs in various supporting roles. So that's pretty amazing. He ended up being Barney in the Flintstones. He was George Jetson's boss in the Jetsons.
Mr. Sprocket.
Yep. So, and just kind of who I grew up with in my childhood.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So, yeah.
So we have a clip from them?
We have a clip from them. This is where Jack is doing his monologue for the show, and Mel is being the boom operator, the boom mic. And he kind of drops it on his head, and then they kind of go at it from there.
Okay.
So let's listen to that real quick.
All right.
But getting back to exercise, I don't think that people do enough of it. Really, they don't take advantage of the, what is it? this anyway. Hey. Hey, fella.
Huh?
What? I was right in the middle of my monologue and you dropped the mic in my face.
I did? Oh, I'm sorry. I must have dozed off.
Dozed off.
Oh, boy, what a night I had last night.
Well, look, that's not my problem. Now, sleep on your own time.
On my own time? How can I sleep with a kid of mine yelling and screaming at 3 o'clock in the morning? I'd walk that kid up and down, up and down, up and down. And my wife, she doesn't hear this. She's sound asleep.
Look, I'm not interested in your wife.
Well, neither am I. But you can't break up a home just because your wife can wear the same shoes that you do.
I don't care.
They're a little tight, but she gets them on.
Look, don't tell me your problems. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a comedian.
Well, you could have fooled me.
Never mind that. Now cut that out and just tend to your business. And stay awake.
Okay. You know, I fell asleep here last week, too.
What are you talking about? You weren't even working here last week.
I know. I was in the audience.
Now stop the whole business. Just do what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
Okay, now that is something I would gather around with my kids to watch. Or listen to.
Yeah. A little more than Sherlock and Moriarty.
For sure. And you could totally hear Bugs Bunny in his voice.
Yeah, you could right there for sure.
I mean, as soon as he was talking, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So yeah, there are thousands of these shows online, and I found a couple of... You can go to YouTube, like I would just search, whatever show you're looking for, an old show. You could even look up
You'll probably
old radio
hashtag
shows.
a lot of them, won't you, in this? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you can go to YouTube, you can find them. There's also a site called archive.org. Is one of the best free resources for that. It has tens of thousands of shows that you can download. You can download them one by one. You can download the whole series. And you can listen to them as MP3s. On that site, you also get photos, descriptions, and comments for listeners. So it's you can get an idea of the whole show.
That's so cool. And
also there's a website called relicradio.com. And also another one called rusc.com. So there's plenty of ways to access those things.
Yeah.
And it's to me, I get a little bored with all the podcasts I listen to, except for ours. I never get bored with ours. But I mean, I want to add to what the things I already have. So I've got great podcasts like Hardie Party of 5 that I listen to religiously. And then I really want to...
That's because you do all the editing.
Right. I listen to it 100 times.
100 times.
Yeah. Which you should too.
Yeah, that's right.
But also, I wanna look into adding some of these old radio shows. I just kind of like the retro feel of it, and when it's a radio show, you can it's using your imagination.
Yeah.
More than you do that a lot with audiobooks. I'm more of a reader of pages, but you like audiobooks.
I do like audiobooks, mainly because I fall asleep with them reading a book.
So, in doing all this, of course, we had to kind of think outside the box. So we thought, what would the Hardie Party of 5 do with this? So we decided that we would do a table read of an original broadcast. And we picked the very first episode of Superman. Yes.
It's important to note, because I don't think everybody knows this.
Okay.
When you're listening to this table read, Kal-El is Superman.
Right.
That's common knowledge to you.
Yeah.
People like you.
Yeah. Well, it's his origin. This episode is basically his origin story.
But I'm just telling the listeners, Kal-El equals Superman.
Right.
I literally probably read through that twice before I realized it.
So we had the lovely Rebecca Hardie and the very manly Brady Looney, which now we are calling Lone Wolf Looney. We all read it.
We all read.
We had a fun time.
It was so fun.
It really was. I want to do more of this.
Yeah, and we're going to play it for more.
Yeah. Are you ready? Are you nervous?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Here you go. Superman #1, originally broadcast in 1940.
Starring
the voice talents of a man's man, Lone Wolf Looney, known as Scooter the Pooter on Instagram, Scott Hardie, anything but a damsel in distress, Rebecca Hardie, and me, your intrepid reporter, Scooter McScoops. Boys and girls, your attention please. Presenting a new and exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing, incredible personality. Faster than an airplane. More powerful than a locomotive. Impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman.
And now Superman, a being no larger than an ordinary man, but possessed of powers and abilities never before realized on Earth. Able to leap into the air, an eighth of a mile in a single bound. Hurdle a 20-story building with ease. Race a high-powered bullet to its target. Lift tremendous weights and rend solid steel in its bare hands, as though it were paper. Superman, a strange visitor from a distant planet, champion of the oppressed, physical marvel extraordinaire, who has sworn to devote his existence on Earth to helping those in need. As our story begins, we ask you to come on a far journey. A journey that takes us millions of miles from the Earth, where the planet Krypton burns like a green star in the heavens. Here, civilization is far advanced. It has brought forth a race of supermen, if you will. Men and women like ourselves, but advanced to the absolute peak of human perfection.
No way.
As we near Krypton, we see high walls and gleaming terrace. We approach the magnificent Temple of Wisdom. And there in the Great Hall, Jor-El, Krypton's foremost man of science, is about to address the meeting of the planet's governing council.
Attention, gentlemen. Jor-El speaks.
Members of the council, I've completed my solar calculations, and as much as I dread uttering these words, I have come to the conclusion that Krypton is doomed.
What?
Doomed,
Did I hear him?
Gentlemen, hear him out.
These eternal quakes we've been experiencing, these volcanic eruptions, these tidal waves, gas escaping from giant craters, all point to one thing, gentlemen and ladies. Krypton is utterly and finally doomed.
You are a madman. There's no way.
One moment, gentlemen. One moment. There's no cause for anxiety. I am certain Jor-El has made a mistake. True, we've had a few minor quakes and eruptions, but nothing very serious. There must be some error in your calculations, Jor-El.
No, there is no error, Rosan. I only wish there were. The sun is gradually drawing Krypton closer to it. Within a month, possibly a week, the gravitational pull will be so tremendous that Krypton will not be able to weather the storm. And then, my friends, our planet will explode like a giant bubble, destroying everything living on it.
Silence. Gentlemen, assuming for the moment, Jor-El, that what you say is true, how are we to avoid it? What can we do to stop it?
There's only one way. As you all know, I have been working on a spaceship designed for interplanetary travel. With time and effort, we might transport the entire population of Krypton to another world.
Impossible. Where would we go?
To the Earth? My studies tell me the atmosphere of the Earth is very nearly the same as our own.
You have been working too hard, Jor-El. You need to rest. Believe me, we have the utmost respect for knowledge and integrity, but this is carrying it too far. Planets as large as Krypton do not explode, Jor-El.
Yes, exactly. They don't explode.
Oh, God.
Wait, do you hear that, gentlemen? It's the forewarning of doom! Every moment is precious now. Quakes like that are sounding the death bell of Krypton. It will happen, gentlemen and ladies. It will happen soon, when the last great eruption comes.
When it comes, Jor-El, it shall find all of us ready. If Krypton is to die, we shall die with it. Parting would be much too severe.
Very well. Laugh if you like, Rosan. And you members of the council, I have no time to laugh. My wife, Lara, and my infant son are too dear to me. It is not my wish to stand by and see them destroyed. Laugh, all of you, laugh. But a time will come, and that time is perhaps very close at hand, when you will wish you had heeded the words of Jarrell. Now you think me a fool. But remember what I have said, gentlemen. When Krypton is shattered into 1,000 million stars, when the glorious civilization we have built is no more, when you and your families are swept from the face of Krypton like dust.
Order, gentlemen! Order! You have heard Jarrell speak. Is it your wish we devote time and money to building spaceships for transportation of Krypton's population to another planet? I'm sorry, Jarrell. The council has spoken.
Yes, and you've signed the death warrants of every living thing on Krypton. Well, I've done the best to convince you. Now all that remains for me is to proceed with my own means of salvation. My own spaceship, to save the lives of those near and dear to me. As for the rest of you, may the gods have mercy on your souls.
Later in Jarrell's lab.
Oh, Lara, I didn't see you there.
I came out to take air on the terrace. It's been terribly hot all day. Is that because we're being drawn closer to the sun, Jarrell?
Yes.
What did the council have to say about that?
Well, I didn't mention it.
Is the model of your spaceship about finished?
Yes, I drove the last rivet. How does it look?
Splendid, but will it work?
That remains to be seen. If it does work, I shall immediately begin construction on another just like it, only much larger. One big enough to carry all three of us to another world.
All three of us. Jarrell, when will that be? Every moment we spend waiting and wondering.
Yes, I know, Lara. It's been hard on all of us, and particularly hard on you. How's the boy?
He's sleeping, Jarrell. That quake this afternoon really frightened him, but he's all right now. Can you come in and look at him? You scarcely see him these days, with all that working, all the hours on that spaceship model.
It can't be helped, dear. I'm racing against time. Right now, I'm anxious to know whether the model will behave as I hope.
How does it operate?
Well, very simply. When all is ready, I throw this switch. That closes the circuit, and electric energy builds up pressure in the atomic generators. Then, at the final moment, the pressure forces the ship from its carrier and speeds it on its way.
But where will it go?
Wherever it is pointed. This one I'm directing to the planet Earth.
Earth? What is that, Jarrell?
A planet smaller than our own, situated on the other side of the sun. It's inhabited by a race of people similar to ourselves.
Like ourselves?
Oh, well, only partly, of course, my dear. They're about the same size, but nowhere nearly as developed as us. Very weak and helpless. And with all their faculties, extremely limited.
How do you mean?
Something like this. You know how far you step when you want to go somewhere?
Practically as far as I want. Why, one step takes me to the Britter's house, near the fountain.
Exactly. But down where I'm sending the spaceship, it's quite different. An Earthman steps 3 feet at a time at most. Silly, right? And everything else is in proportion to that.
And that's where we're going to go? Oh, how dreadful.
My dear, which would you rather do? Go to Earth and live? Or stay on Krypton and die?
I'll do anything you say, Jarrell. Anything. It doesn't matter to me whether we live or die, as long as we live together. It's only the boy that I'm worried about.
Yes, I know. Oh, Lara, darling, don't worry. He'll be saved.
When are you going to test this spaceship model?
In the morning, just as dawn breaks, I'll set it on its way, watching its flight through a high-powered telescope to see whether it lands safely on the Earth.
Is Earth the only place we can go, Jarrell?
We couldn't breathe on any other planet but Earth. It happens to have an atmosphere similar to Krypton's.
I suppose. You know best, Jarrell. Are you coming in? It seems to have gotten oppressively hot.
Yes, it has. I wonder. Lara, did you hear that?
Yes, Jarrell. What was it?
Subterranean explosions. Do you feel the ground trembling?
Yes, I do, Jarrell. Do you think...
Lara, I'm afraid it's come. Where's the boy, Kal-El?
What do you mean?
Get him quickly. This is the end.
Jarrell, what can we do?
Nothing. I'm not ready. Oh, what a fool I have been to delay.
It isn't your fault, Jarrell. You did all you could do.
If only the smaller were large enough, we could take a chance.
Jarrell, will it carry one of us to safety?
Oh, I think so. But Lara, where are you going? Stay here with me.
I'm getting Kalel. If one of us can be saved, Jarrell, it should be the boy.
No, Lara, come back. If one must go, it should be you. Lara, I said come back. Come back.
Here he is, Jarrell, still asleep. Goodbye, Kalel.
Please, Lara.
No, Jarrell, listen to me. We both can stay here. Kalel goes in the spaceship. If there's a chance for Jarrell, one little chance, I want it for myself.
Maybe you're right, Lara.
Jarrell, look, the sky is fiery red. The mountains look like they're on fire and they're falling in. Jarrell, what's happening?
The end of Krypton, Lara. Just as I foretold. This is the last great quake.
No, listen. You can do explosions.
Here, quick. Give me the boy.
Kalel. What are you doing, Jarrell?
Opening the door, putting him inside.
Jarrell, the house is swinging. It's breaking apart.
There. He's safe inside. Now for the switch. Stand back, Lara.
Oh, Jarrell, will he reach Earth?
I don't know. Why do I sound like Gaston? Only the gods know, Lara. But there is a chance. The only chance. Stand back now, Lara. I'm going to throw the switch.
Jarrell, it's getting dark. I can't see what's happening.
Fire, smoke! From the center of the planet! Not much time now!
Hold me, Jarrell. Has the spaceship gone?
No, not yet. Waiting for the pressure to build. We may have been too late. If it doesn't work soon, wait! Lara, it's off! It's on its way!
Where are you?
Here beside you, Lara! Listen, you can hear me! Our boy Kalel, our son, Lara, he's on his way! He's on his way to Earth!
Kalel!
So the tiny rocket ship roars into the uncharted heavens as the mighty planet Krypton explodes into a million fragments of glowing, glittering stars to remain in the night sky forever. Jarrell and Lara, devoted parents of the tiny boy, perish in the giant quake that destroys Krypton. But what of the rocket? Does it reach Earth? Does it find its mark in all the far-flung distance of space? Remember, don't miss the next installment of Superman!
Up in the sky! Look!
It's a giant bird!
It's a plane!
It's Superman!
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine. Oh, Lara, I'm sure he's going to be fine.
Do you promise?
I promise. Yes.
Okay, that was so much fun doing that.
It really was. I feel like I may have done a little Nick Cage there. I may have overacted just a little.
Just a little?
I felt like I was bringing it. Really?
You were on the edge of both. I mean, I think that the traditional readings of radio were very overdramatic anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I think you were just, probably fell short. I mean,
I don't know if you felt short. I felt like I maybe got into it a little much.
Yes.
But I think it goes back to all the retro movies I've been watching.
You're just feeling it.
Well, Humphrey Bogart, Jimmy Stewart, all these guys, they really were overactors. I've understood that now that I'm watching them again.
They were, yes. Okay, this was so much fun. I learned so much. I still go back to like knowing that Guiding Light used to be a radio show. That's so fascinating to me. I learned so much on this episode, and we hope you did too. If you haven't already, you should like and subscribe to our podcast. I think it's follow now. I actually think they took out the subscribe part.
Yeah, they did.
It's just follow. Yeah, it's like in the top right corner. And then like and subscribe. Make sure that you leave us a comment if you can. Like, that would be great. Podcasts really depend on like your good comments in the comment section.
And you can even share them with friends.
Okay, that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Click that share button because you want to hear more of the Hardie Party of 5 podcast.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode of Superman. What's it called? Kalel!
Oh, Lara.
Hardie Party of 5.5. Over and out.
We'll see you next time.